What if I told you a 9-year-old boy was crowned king only to become something the world was never meant to remember? In the Middle Ages, crowns were forged for power, but his was forged to bind. They said he was too young to rule. They were wrong. He wasn't meant to rule, he was meant to remain. This boy didn't grow older. He didn't die in battle or disappear in exile. He simply stayed, watching, listening. And when his own family tried to poison him, it wasn't the boy who was them one by one, silently, without explanation. Centuries passed and his name was wiped from every scroll, every record, yet his face began to reappear, in forgotten paintings, in cursed diaries, in war zones where soldiers claimed to see a barefoot child walking through fire without a sound. No one speaks his name anymore, but his throne was never empty, just waiting, because in the darkest corners of forbidden history, some kings don't need armies, they just need time. And this one, he's still here. Subscribe now before the next dream you forget ends with a crown on your head. In the fading heart of a dying kingdom, a boy, no older than 9, was crowned king. His name was Aurelius, though few dared speak it aloud. He was not chosen by fate or strength, but summoned like a ghost, a porcelain symbol of unity in a fractured court. The crown, fashioned too large for his head, slipped down his brow like a punishment. His small hands trembled as they gripped a scepter heavier than truth. He smiled, but not with joy, only instinct. Those who surrounded him whispered prayers, not of hope but of survival. He was not their leader. He was their distraction. Behind every bowed head, betrayal bloomed. The kingdom had long been sick. Famine gnawed at the fields. Strange illnesses left children speechless. And the nobility, fat with fear, needed a puppet. And who better than a child? The boy had no siblings. His father had died suddenly, his lungs filled with black bile. His mother, a woman made of shadow and silence, wept without tears. His uncle stood at the boy's side with wine in one hand, envy in the other. The coronation was an act of theater. No real power passed that day. The boy was paraded through marble halls echoing with forgotten hymns. But as the crown touched his scalp, birds outside the cathedral scattered in a synchronized panic. No one noticed. At night, the boy wandered the hallways. He spoke to portraits, paused at closed doors, and left his toys perfectly aligned in circles. The servants began to avoid his gaze. They said he never blinked, that he hummed songs no one recognized. The bishop claimed the boy had recited a passage not found in any scripture but in a buried book, sealed centuries before. Aurelius began drawing symbols in wax on the walls of his chambers, at first dismissed as childish nonsense, until one matched an ancient seal long banned by the church, a seal of silence and blood. Still, he was praised. Still, he was adored. His innocence became a shrine for all who feared reality. But the boy was listening to whom? No one knew. The throne was no longer a seat of power. It was a cage built of gold, designed to mask a deeper truth. The crown was not forged for kings. It was made to bind whatever wore. And the boy, without knowing, had begun to change. The whispers began the night the bells stopped ringing. No wind, no birds, just a stillness that made even the bricks seem watchful. Aurelius no longer slept through the night. He was found kneeling at the foot of his bed, eyes closed, lips moving in dead tongues. The priests claimed the words were ancient, predating Latin, etched only in forbidden margins of lost scripture. He claimed dreams where voices taught him names of those long buried beneath the palace, forgotten kings who died screaming into the stone. Each night, the same corridor. Each night, the same locked door. Until it wasn't. The crypts beneath the palace, sealed for generations, were opened under his command, officially for repair, though no workers were called. The guards assigned to the entrance quit within days, citing visions of children with melted faces and prayers spoken backward. The bishop approached the queen in private. He had seen Aurelius speaking to statues that did not move until he turned away. One figure, that of King Hauran the Mad, now bore a hairline crack along its throat, as if split by soundless rage. The boy's manner changed. He no longer flinched at shadows. He watched them calm and attentive, as if expecting instruction. He corrected tutors when they misquoted historical massacres, then smiled politely when asked how he knew. He wore the crown even while alone, even in sleep. When a servant asked him why, he replied, "Because it listens to me now." Strange incidents followed. The court jester was found dead beneath the stairwell, eyes open, mouth filled with wax roses. A child's ring lay beside him, the same one Aurelius wore as a baby, lost years ago. The queen dismissed it as tragic coincidence, though her voice shook when she spoke. The bishop tried to exorcise the chamber in secret. The next morning, his hands were covered in blisters shaped like scripture. He left the court in silence. Rumors spread. The boy was cursed, or worst, chosen. The people feared speaking ill of him. Livestock died when his name was spoken with contempt. Even those who didn't believe avoided his gaze in portraits. No one knew what he was becoming, but they all felt it, something ancient stirring beneath his skin, something that remembered fire. The boy's 10th birthday arrived under skies the color of rotting parchment. The kingdom, exhausted from famine and fear, draped itself in forced celebration. Within the palace, arrangements were made not for joy but for silence. A decision had been reached. Aurelius must die. His mother signed the decree with trembling hands. His uncle sharpened the dagger with ceremonial care. The bishop blessed the poison with a muttered lie. They called it mercy. They called it protection. But beneath their words was desperation. No longer a symbol, the boy had become a mirror reflecting their worst truths back at them. They chose the chalice. The wine would be served during his birthday mass. A quiet, clean death. No spectacle. Just a fading heartbeat beneath the stained glass. But the plan unraveled before the first drop touched his lips. That morning the bishop was found collapsed in the courtyard, mouth blackened, eyes bulging as if from drowning. The poison he had prepared was missing. The queen fell next, gasping in her chamber, clutching a prayer book upside down. By dusk, the uncle stumbled into the throne room, coughing blood and begging a portrait for forgiveness. Aurelius stood untouched, unshaken, observing. He said nothing, only watched as the council fell apart in pieces. There was no rage in his eyes, only acceptance, as if history were correcting itself through him. Word spread that the boy had recited a single phrase over their bodies, but none who heard it remembered the words, only the taste of salt in their mouths and the sudden chill in their bones. The nobles who survived tried to flee, but the gates had locked without command. Guards stood frozen, unable to explain why they couldn't move. A painter, hired to commemorate the boy's birthday, left behind a half-finished portrait. When found, the canvas had changed. Aurelius stood in it, cloaked in shadow, wearing not his crown but his uncle's skin. The silence returned. No birds, no bells. The people in the city whispered, then stopped whispering altogether. Letters sent to neighboring kingdoms arrived, blank, as if the ink had refused to carry what was happening. No funeral was held, no announcement made. The boy still sat the throne, alone, listening, smiling at nothing. Years passed, but none could agree on how many. The calendar stopped being updated. Historians who tried to document the boy's reign found their ink dried mid. One by one they abandoned the effort. Official records mention no king by that name, yet paintings, hidden in monasteries and private vaults, showed a young monarch watching cities burn. The child never aged. The style changed. The brushwork evolved, but his face remained pale, distant, eternal. In one, he stood behind plague doctors during a great fire. In another, he gazed calmly from a tower as gallows were raised below. His eyes always half-lidded, never blinked. Centuries later, during the First World War, soldiers unearthed a crypt in a ruined cathedral. At its center was a sealed coffin bearing no name, only a crown engraved with symbols no linguist could decipher. Within the same week, all men in that unit perished under unrelated, brutal accidents. Diaries recovered from the trench described a figure small, barefoot, and crowned walking between explosions without leaving prints in the mud. Most dismissed it as hysteria. Some believed otherwise. Modern times offered no escape. A rare manuscript surfaced at auction, pages filled with illustrations of a crowned child surrounded by blind advisors. A private collector won the bid. He vanished days later, last seen muttering about a throne that still remembers. The manuscript has never resurfaced. Online forums debated whether it was real. Some claimed to dream of a cold palace, candles that drip backward, and a boy waiting in silence. All reported waking with bleeding ears. The palace where he once lived has long since crumbled, its land swallowed by forest. Yet travelers in that region speak of whispers through the trees, names that were never taught. Children sleepwalk toward the ruins, eyes open, hands clasped behind their backs as if mimicking a king. No monument was built, no tomb uncovered. No one remembers the war he never fought or the laws he never wrote. But across centuries, the same phrase repeats in hidden texts, scribbled in margins and scratched onto prison walls. He was not made to rule. He was made to remain. And still, somewhere in the silence between heartbeats, the throne waits. Not empty, never empty, only forgotten.